It's way past time I dispense some indiscriminate justice!
G'day guys, DarkCell here. We're going to have a look at another replay from the TSL qualifiers. This one was from the qualifying session number... is it from 3 or is it from 4? I don't know. Something like that. But we are going to see two players here. We're going to have a Protoss versus Zerg, if I remember correctly. This is obviously we've got here REQDarkCell, who I have had in another cast against Shuffle on this this same map actually. But played a really cool Zerg versus Zerg. Make sure you check that one out. That's on the channel somewhere. And his opponent, of course, over on the actually the perfect position for Zerg against Protoss on this map is AcidiC, who is from Canada, I believe. He's a Protoss player here who has been doing a little bit of a rounds with the competitive scene, that sort of thing. Just scouting out here, as you can see, but it's going to be cross spots, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens on this match. There were some comments that this one was actually a pretty cool Zerg versus Protoss match on Metalopolis. Of course, Metalopolis being one of the greatest maps in StarCraft 2, especially considering the flavor of some of the other 1v1 maps which we had at the start. Obviously, you've got this pretty open natural expansion, so it can be a little bit difficult for any of the races to take this one, unless of course you're Terran, in which case it's fine. But obviously normally you would expect something to see something like a just sort of a speedling expand, which we're going to see here from DarkCell, or sometimes you do see the old 15 hatch or something like that. And of course, from a Protoss perspective, generally you're not going to see anything too risky, such as like a very quick Nexus. You do see some Forge expands sometimes, but not as common as doing the old one base sort of play. But we do see that AcidiC is down here providing a little bit of harass on the drones of DarkCell, trying to make sure this hatchery is blocked. He's doing a good job so far. You'd want to see a pylon being chucked down in just a second. He is going to get there. Yes, he is. And there it goes. So that pylon is going to be down there for AcidiC, is going to be blocking off that expansion for the moment. We do see this particular drone heading down here to this side of the map. I'm not sure if this is a decoy or if this is actually going down to plant a hatchery somewhere. He hasn't actually pre-placed it so far, but don't be surprised if he actually puts one down. I sort of would be surprised, but no, it looks as if he's just checking out if there's any sorts of proxies or anything like that, which can sometimes be the case if you're getting blocked like this. Sometimes it'll be a decoy, in that the Protoss may actually just be getting two gates right near your base, and he's going to start sending in some zealots quite quickly. But we do see that nothing of that sort is happening here. A couple of Zerglings are out for DarkCell. He's going to be able to take this down, this pylon, in just a second, and the hatchery is going to go down almost straight away, just waiting for a little bit more minerals. There you go, and there it is. So the hatchery is now down. A drone somehow got inside. I don't think that that zealot was out just in time to actually block it, or perhaps it wasn't holding position, but either way, drone has gotten inside from DarkCell. He is going to be able to see everything that is happening in this base. As you can see here, he's just scouting out, checking out what's happening here. He's going to have a look at this particular building. He's going to notice that that is a gateway, so nothing really too interesting being revealed for this drone. Like, obviously it's very good that he got it in, and the other thing he's going to spot is that the two gases are up. There are now 3 gates in total, so we're probably going to see a 3-gate sentry based expand from AcidiC. So we'll see if that is the case. This drone may want to try and stay hidden just for the moment, perhaps to see if he can stay away from this sentry that is now chasing him. And if he can, he may be able to spot some other tech that might come up in just a second from AcidiC, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. The sentry has now cornered its prey, coming in like a lion on the Discovery Channel, and now slowly tickling away at this drone. It will eventually die. Obviously it does take about 10 years for a sentry to kill anything, but finally does it, as you can see there, and that will be that. So now AcidiC will be free to switch into anything if he wants to, but I'm assuming that he won't need to, because of course this warp gate tech is just about done. The standard sort of 3-gate expansion for Protoss will be able to commence quite shortly, which is a very easy strat to pull off. And once you get it done, it's a very, very good way to expand. It's incredibly safe. You've got those builds where they're very risky, which is like, your very fast Nexus, your very sort of heavy gateway sort of build, that sort of thing, straight off the bat on one base. Or you can have the very safe things like some cannons or a lot of sentries, which we'll probably see here from AcidiC. As you can see there it is, the 5 sentries. It's sort of the sweet spot you want to get to is 5, because then you got a lot of energy to use in, of course, all of these sentries here. As you can see, these are all very, very highly charged for the moment with their energy, and they'll be able to put down a lot of force fields if any sorts of attacks come along from DarkCell. But as we can see, DarkCell isn't really doing anything just for the moment that'll be any sort of threat to AcidiC for the time being. He does have a hatchery morphing into the lair, which will be done in a short moment. As we can see here, it'll be done in just a jiffy. And roaches probably will be the weapon of choice for the moment, I would assume, for DarkCell, just making sure he has some map presence with the roaches, not to mention the great damage that they do against gateway units and that sort of thing. And then we'll see if he actually decides to switch into something perhaps like Mutas, which are a really cool unit to see on this map, because you can use them to float around and deny expose, that sort of thing. But I'm not really sure if he's going to go for it at the moment. He is getting the tunneling claws on the roaches, so this is going to be very interesting to see if he does get that up and running, and perhaps he may go for some sort of I have actually seen a drop with tunneling roaches, which is very interesting. It's a little bit of a Brood War style drop, where you take a few of your roaches, chuck them in your overload, drop them in the back of the base, and then just tunnel around, and then firstly just scout out what's happening, as this fake Phoenix is doing, that we see with the hallucinate. So you can scout out with those roaches, or perhaps attack at some sort of point. So one thing to keep in mind is that you can do something like that. But we do have this Phoenix now scouting around, doing a great job. This is what you really need to do as a Protoss if you're not going to head in for some early pressure against the Zerg and try and actually make him not use the larvae for drones and actually use them for defending units. If you're not going to do that, make sure you are actually scouting out every single thing that the Zerg is doing. Now, as we saw here, we do have an Evo chamber going down here. I would suspect this is just going to be for upgrades. We'll probably see the +1 missile upgrade go up shortly once this is done, and then we will see if DarkCell is going to attack with some roaches. It'll be interesting to see if he does. We do have a cannon now here for AcidiC that is going to be able to detect the burrowed roaches once they do come along. I'm not really going to suspect that that DarkCell's actually going to do that. I think that may just be perhaps just a secondary method to use some units. Oh no, it does look like he's going to. The roaches do have their highlights in their hair. They've got their spiky mohawks up and running, and they're just scouting around for the moment, just sort of creeping around like you know, something from Jaws, in that stupid shark in Jaws, just creeping around trying to spot where they can. He's going to try and go around the back, of course, and knows that the cannon is down here at this spot and will be able to detect. Another fake Phoenix going out from AcidiC. As I mentioned, this is really what you want to stay on top of, is exactly what the Zerg is doing, and we'll have a look from Acidic's view and find out just exactly what this Phoenix spots. And he does see some drones transfer across, knows that the creep is starting to get around everywhere. We do hear that famous sound of the Void Ray being built. He does see 3 Evo chambers, so he is going to know that there are going to be some decent upgrades coming out of the Zerg. We actually have 1 of each, so he's going to be able to pick up +1 to missile, +1 to melee and the carapace, as we can see here. Now, just with that fake Phoenix finally getting picked off there by the Queen, obviously not happy that that was a fake one, but doing her job and making sure that the skies are being protected. So we do have a probe coming over here, chucking out a pylon. This is going to be put up first just to make sure that that AcidiC can warp in any units if he needs to. And he's still, it really looks like he was actually just sort of looking at what was over here, but he doesn't know that those are there. Of course, those roaches are going to be able to just sit there and counter-attack at any point that he wants to. But I think we're going to see an expand just come out shortly here from AcidiC. He's got some, he's got 1 or 2 Void Rays, I think it was, in total, but and there we go, some more gateways going up, providing a little bit of a wall against anything coming in from this side. We may see some cannons go up as well, which are a great addition to that sort of wall to make sure that it is protected. The wolf statue getting in my way there. The Void Ray, however, is not going to get in the way. It's going to be floating around. This the floating chandelier, as it has been referred to, is going to be able to have a quick look at what's happening inside the base of DarkCell. Of course, these Hydralisks are now out, so that's probably the reason why we had many upgrades on the way, and I'm thinking that we may see a switch into Ultralisks once the hive goes up. Now, we do have the infestation pit just on the way. I think it's over here. There it is. The infestation pit is now done. Actually, there you go. That's interesting. There's some banelings coming along, so we may see some roach baneling hydra, perhaps. I'm not actually sure I've ever seen that particular style before, but either way, we will be seeing it in a moment. We've got some interesting to see that there really isn't too much inside AcidiC space over here. He's got just a couple of gates, a robo and a Stargate, as you can see here, the robotic support base. So he's just sort of not really going too hard on the production facilities for the moment, just making sure that he has a very, very powerful army. This is a point where, as a Zerg, you want to be really careful as to what the Protoss is doing. One common tactic now for Protoss is to actually just be very, very passive and not actually attack, and just sort of stay back and use this very deadly ball, the death ball as it has been referred to, and just actually sort of stay back. If any Zerg come along, wipe them out and just sort of, you know, keep things in check and not actually attack into Zerg, because that's when you can come into trouble as Protoss. If you actually overcommit to an attack and you lose all of your forces, and then it can be kind of hard to rebuild the power units, so the things like the Void Rays and the Colossus, the Immortals, that sort of thing. So you just really need to be careful with that sort of attack, and as you can see, for the moment, AcidiC is actually going to be sticking with that style, just sort of staying back and expanding for the moment. Now, one thing that he's going to need to be careful of is these upgrades are going to be done soon for Zerg. Obviously, Zerg upgrades actually sort of lose their effect later on in the game, especially in the end game part of Protoss versus Zerg, in the fact that once the Protoss actually get his upgrades done, which still not on the way from AcidiC, he's still just powering these units for the moment. We do have a double rainbow up at the moment. The double robo, of course, is going to be done. Still not too many probes over here on this expansion, and no second gas, which is very interesting. I suspect that may be why that AcidiC has not actually really done too much with his upgrades or anything just for the moment. We now do see that +1 air weapons are on the way, so I think that AcidiC may be sticking with this Void Ray combo for the moment. He's probably going to switch heavily into the Void Rays once he deflects an attack from DarkCell. That's a common way to do it. Once you deflect an attack, switch into a certain type of mixture of units, and then you can actually make sure that the attack is all very, very powerful. Now, finally, these roaches get spotted here. AcidiC's going to be very unhappy that he didn't actually see that earlier. Of course, those roaches may have spotted anything that was hanging out there at the Protoss natural. And of course, as you can see, these gateways providing obviously a very gate-ish sort of block here on this ramp, and nothing's going to get through this side for the moment, especially with these 4 cannons sitting up the back. Now, as I mentioned, a very interesting strategy coming in from DarkCell. He's now got the movement speed for the Overlords, of course, so there'll be Super Lords in a moment, and they do have their drop capability as well. So he's got some Banelings sitting up here inside these Overlords. He's probably going to try and drop those on top of the Protoss Deathball if he can. Roaches sitting underneath, which are going to provide a lot of damage tanking, and of course they will provide a lot of damage themselves once they are in the battle and all up in everyone's faces. We do have a Spire on the way, so we may see perhaps a little bit later a little bit of a switch into the Spire tech for DarkCell. He's now got a huge amount of hatcheries out. He's got a third one building inside his main. He's got his one at the natural, and then we have 2 at the third base, along with a couple more here over at these side bases here at the 4th and the 5th. Now, we do finally have a move out from AcidiC. He's got an extremely powerful ball here. Do keep in mind, there's only +1 to these ground units, and of course they do not have any sort of actual defensive upgrades just yet. However, the Void Rays will be providing a lot of damage here. Overlords dropping their bounty on top of the Protoss Deathball. The Banelings have done a lot of damage. A lot of those lower tier units have gone down, not to mention all of these Colossi are now gone. And finally, we do have a bit of an attack here in this match. Finally, someone has actually come in to attack, but it looks as if we will have some resupply here from AcidiC, given that he does have quite a strong, powerful ball mixture ready to go. And we do see that the Void Rays are going to tear up these roaches, of course, which are on the ground, have no way to defend against the air, and now he's going to be in a good position to actually attack. But we do have some Overlords dropping in Hydras, which is very cool to see. You normally don't see that in the mid game. I think this is just a little bit of a deflection to actually distract AcidiC from actually attacking into anything that DarkCell has. Obviously, as you can see there, it was easily fended off by AcidiC, and of course now DarkCell has been able to resupply himself, and he's got a lot of he's got some more Banelings morphing in on the way, some Hydras, some Roaches, and another Infestor ready to go. So I'll be interested to see if there is some Infestor play in terms of we may see Neural Parasite get upgraded. We may see that being used on the Colossi to try and take over the units and perhaps use them against AcidiC's own forces. But finally, we do see some proper probing up here at this particular base at the 10 o'clock side of the map. Finally getting a lot more of the probes in. Still waiting on a couple of probes to get inside this gas here, but it's not going to be too much trouble just for the moment. I think AcidiC is a little bit more focused on actually getting his attacks going. He's finally moving out on the map, making sure that he's got a bead on these Zolnaga watchtowers. As you can see, this Zergling has actually been sitting here for a long time, I believe. But looks as if AcidiC's just still going to sit back on this very passive scale for the moment. He does still have a lot of units pumping out. He's got another Colossus, another one over here as well, so a couple more will be coming through. I'm thinking the problem for him may be is that if this base gets up, the Broodlords may come out and be a very powerful unit in DarkCell's arsenal, just in that we still actually don't really have too much of a sort of an anti-air combo just yet. We do have the Void Rays, of course, I'm not denying them, or these Stalkers which do have Blink, but he's still sitting on +1 to the upgrades there. He does have +1 to the Void Rays as well, so they will do a tiny bit more damage than what they normally do. But it's still just all of these bases from DarkCell, of course. As I mentioned, we've got Hatch over here. This base has been flourishing for a while as well, along with this one as well. Let's have a quick look at the income tab. We do have 73 harvesters for DarkCell, 64 for AcidiC, and he's just going to be able to pump ahead in any sort of resupply of his units. Of course, he is currently sitting here maxed at 200 now, and AcidiC is currently sitting just a little bit below that on 196. Of course, the easier part of resupply will be for the Zerg, given that he's got around about 6,000 hatcheries sitting around with all full injections going on. Keeping on top of those injections is quite impressive with this many bases, because it's not as if you really need to. But he does have this very cool, very colourful unit mixture here. We'll call this the rainbow effect here. We've got the roaches with the very colourful hair. We've got the banelings providing some green. We've got these infestors with their orange backside there, and it's just going to be very interesting once these forces go into battle, because we're going to see probably some green fungals. We'll see the green explosions from the banelings, and of course the roaches spitting out that green acidy crap that they do, trying to be aliens from the alien movies. But we do finally have a move out here from AcidiC. He is bringing some of these forces down. Got to be very careful with those Stalkers to make sure they don't get picked off, and indeed they do. The Storm's going down on top of the banelings, ripping up a lot of those banelings, but we do have fungals on almost every single unit that AcidiC has, losing a lot of units to the banelings that did actually explode. And the ball seems to have stuck together for the moment. Of course, the laser ball that it is at the moment here, providing a lot of damage with the Colossi, doing a lot of the splash damage to the Zerg units. Of course, they are still sitting on +1, and the air units also sitting on +1 as well. But the Stalkers are going to be, interestingly, the meat shields for this sort of engagement. As we can see here, we do have the Colossi sitting out the back. Some Storms are going down on top of the Roach Hydras that is over off to the side. Looks as if DarkCell is actually not in the greatest position at the moment. He is defending quite well, but he's there you go. He's finally got a great surround on top of all of these units here. These Storms have been depleted, and it looks as if these Colossi have had enough. They're waving the white flag and retreating all the way back to base. So, as I mentioned, the resupply is sort of the powerful part of DarkCell's build for the moment here. With his 80,000 bases, he's going to be able to resupply quite quickly and just get right back in the face of AcidiC when he can. Now, we still haven't seen any DTs coming out just yet. I'm just making sure I'm scanning around the map just to see if any have come out to play with the drones, but nothing really so far. This is another part of mid to late game Protoss, which people are still, it's not underused, but I think it can be used a little bit more, is DTs just roaming around the map. We did see it in the GSL from, who was it? I think it was it MC? I believe it was MC. Someone recently actually using DTs quite well, just roaming around the map, making sure that your opponent is keeping a check on firstly their detection, and of course just make sure they have units defending every single base. And just if you don't keep on top of the DTs which roam around the map, you will get hacked apart, and it is not a fun day for you. So we do have some Corruptors now coming out for our Zerg player DarkCell. He's got a couple of Roaches sitting up here on the high ground that will be spotted, of course, by this pylon which is sitting here. So we'll probably see some warp ins from AcidiC, but it looks as if he's not going to be able to push in too far with these Roaches. They're probably going to get ripped up. A blink on top of the cliff there. As you see, the Roaches are probably going to go down. He doesn't want to lose these Overlords for the moment. I know he does have a whole, it's a whole party of Overlords down there in the bottom right, the top middle corner here. As you can see, check that out. These guys are just hanging out. They're just having a drink, having a smoke, and they're all cool over here on this side. But obviously you don't want to lose too many units if you're in a good position. Now, as I said, this gold base is probably going to be the key of this particular game. If AcidiC doesn't keep this in check, he's probably going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, as you can see, some Overlords, once again, really interesting to see these Overlords just floating around the map, dropping off all sorts of units around the place. And they may spot that this Nexus is going to go up, but I don't think they're going to see it. Oh, of course, he's got the Zelnaga Watchtower, so he's going to see it anyway. We'll probably see about 80 billion cannons go up here. For AcidiC here, we do have 3, so that's almost 80 billion. I'll try and recount that in just a second when it gets there. But looks as if AcidiC is prepared for any sorts of drops that may be occurring. It looks as if DarkCell has sort of decided not really to go in too hard against this attack. Here he is finally moving in here. These Roaches, do keep in mind, have +3 to armor and weapons, so they're quite upgraded, and of course they will be doing a lot of damage. As you can see here, they do 22 damage per attack. They're not going to be able to take out much of this base, but they certainly will provide a little bit of harassment here, which is always good, especially when you're trying to establish a gold base as DarkCell is. Now, let's go back to AcidiC's base and actually see what he is actually trying to do. I'm still waiting for something like a Stargate explosion, so we can see about 6 Stargates go up and actually see a lot of Void Rays going up, because that's where you'll really need to tech to once these Broodlords are out. And as you can see, we have a total of, it'll be around about 7 Broodlords up in total for DarkCell, and they'll be able to sit over this this sort of dead zone here and actually just shoot away at this gold. And as I said, if AcidiC doesn't actually control the Zerg gold, then his own gold will be in a lot of trouble, because DarkCell is going to be able to just mass produce these Broodlords and any Corruptors to provide some air defense as well. Now, we do have, of course, the Infestor, Hydra, Roach, pretty much every single unit you can think of sitting over there for DarkCell, but it looks as if the Broodlords are just going to have to dance around here, making sure that they are staying on top of the gold base here for Protoss. He's going to ask for a pause. He's there we go. We did have the pause there. Of course, you guys didn't actually see that because this is a replay and it doesn't have the pauses in there, but I can put a pause in there if you want. I don't know. Let me know if you want me to pause it just for some random reason when these guys are playing. But we're going to see perhaps an attack here. We've got to be very mindful of this Protoss deathball. If it is in good position, it may be able to lay waste to these interesting unit mixture from DarkCell, but it looks as if the Broodlords are in a fantastic position, sitting off here to the side. Infestor's ready to go with some Fungals, which will be great to use on top of these, on top of the Void Rays. But we do have finally this big death ball moving across to this side of the map, cleaning up the creep tumors, which are providing a lot of useful utility to the Zerg forces. Of course, it allows the ground forces to move a lot quicker. It allows the vision, of course, that they provide. But finally, we do have it coming in here. Massive amounts of Banelings, storms all over the place. Unfortunate loss there from DarkCell, just getting ripped apart by those storms, taking out almost every single one of those Banelings. That was almost going to be the most epic attack there from DarkCell. He put down beautiful Fungals, captured all of the Protoss units, but just unfortunately didn't have any way to counter the storm that was there from those DTs that were sitting in the back. And of course, once that goes down, those Banelings have no hope of actually getting inside. So that may actually be the key to victory here for AcidiC. He's been playing very passive here, but he has been doing some very good attacks when he can. He does have supporting Stalkers now coming in here. The DTs are being very daring here. May want to switch, put down some Storms once he finds some more Zerg units, and then actually switch those into the Archons, because they do provide a lot of damage when there are Archons. It's like 60 something damage to bio once they have been morphed in, but they're not going to be done here. But it's just way too much for AcidiC here. There are Stalkers, there are Colossi, there are Void Rays, there are nothing else. I can't even think of another unit, but they're all done. That is probably going to be the end of it, because despite the fact that a lot of these Colossi have gone down, the Void Rays are still sitting here in the end in the air, but actually, you know what? We do have the Hydras laying waste to these Void Rays here. As I mentioned a little while ago, that may be an interesting part for AcidiC. As I mentioned, it is very hard to resupply with your power units when you're sort of sitting there with not too many production structures, and as we see, the gold goes down, so this may allow DarkCell to actually come back into this. If he can set up this gold base again, he'll be in a great position. I know this base is up here, the 5th base for AcidiC, it is up and running. This 4th is still going quite nicely. 3rd is almost dead. Natural and the main are of course gone as well, but it looks as if we have a counter coming in here. There are only 2 cannons, and I can tell you what, 2 cannons are not going to stop all of this that is coming in now from DarkCell. There is just way too much for AcidiC to take care of. He's going to need to be careful because he does have Banelings and Broodlings countering his resupply of the units there. It's just not going to be enough. The Broodlords are going to be providing a lot of damage from the air, from a distance, and they're going to be able to take out everything else that is here. Go away, Mech statue. And I think this actually, despite that huge loss, may be the end of AcidiC here. The resupply, just that mass resupply from DarkCell, just providing a lot of a great counter here. As you can see, AcidiC just not happy with his late game play. GG's out of that, says the well played, very nicely done. And of course we see a victory here from DarkCell, so a fantastic win. What effectively I actually called that, you know, so kudos to DarkCell there, getting all of his attack, which was beautifully orchestrated with the fungal and the banelings, actually just getting ripped apart, and then somehow just resupplying, of course, off these 83,000 hatcheries that he has, and then just storming through the Protoss, minimal defense that was left over after that battle. And that is essentially it. So we have a victory there from DarkCell. Hope you guys enjoyed that game. That was quite cool. We'll have a couple more from the TSL coming up shortly once I get into those, and we'll see if we can get some more going. Thanks guys, cheers.